All right, so welcome back to Breakthrough. This, as I promised, is going to be the thing you were waiting for, and that is Otto Othman here from Pincho. Great to see you, man.
Hey, how are you, man?
All right, so CEO and co-founder, Pincho, formerly known as
Pincho Factory.
Prince.
Yeah.
Formerly known as Pincho Factory.
Right,
you guys did some great branding work, so we're going to get a chance to dive into that. For some of our viewers who don't necessarily know the brand Pincho, kind of give us a rundown.
Yeah, sure. Pincho Factory was born in 2010 out of a 4th of July barbecue joke. My background, I was actually in marketing and advertising for many years in 4th of July barbecue with my co-founder Nidal. After a couple of drinks, we decided to open a Latin street food concept. With my mom's recipe, the Pinchos, they were a hit amongst our friends. So I told them, hey, why don't we open, like this Latin street food concept, food that you would find in the streets of South America. We'll put it in an elevated setting. And, fast forward 9 years now, we're at 12 units.
That's great.
In South Florida, yeah.
Yeah. So the Pincho itself was not necessarily a known cuisine when you look at some of the ethnic cuisines that have kind of elevated in the fast casual segment. Pincho was really one of the first players in that area.
Right. So, when we looked at the space, there was nobody doing what we're doing, right? And Pincho essentially is a skewer, is a kebab.
Yeah.
But it's not your traditional Mediterranean or Middle Eastern kebab. It's more what you find in Puerto Rico, more you find in Brazil, Colombia. So when we saw that opening, we said, okay, we really got to own that space. So according to Foodable, in the top 150 emerging chains of last year, we're the only Latin American street food concept.
Yeah. What is a tostones?
Tostones is a plantain, essentially. Is basically.
And you use that as almost like the bun.
Right. So in Venezuela and Puerto Rico, it's called jibarito. So a lot of people use that for sandwiches, primarily for like pulled pork or pulled beef. We said, you know what? Why not just make it into a burger? So it became a very popular dish in our locations here in Miami. Yeah. Primarily the gluten-free crowd, they love the burger.
Love that product. Yeah, absolutely. So Otto, we are talking in today's episode about building a brand, not a business. And when we looked at Pincho in the early years, it's kind of, and we see this a lot with fast casual, is that we think, well, are they capable of scaling, turning a business into a real brand? And we kind of saw you guys and said, okay, here's maybe an up-and-comer, a rising star that could break out. We'll see what happens. Obviously, you guys kind of hit the ground running. Growth has occurred, and you've done it. So talk to me about your recent rebranding campaign, kind of the whole genesis of how that got going.
Yeah, sure. So as you know, we're Pincho Factory. In Miami, the word Pincho is a very well-known word. So as we started traveling and going to different conferences and meeting different people from the industry, I found myself more than once having to explain what Pincho Factory was. People would come up to us and be like, oh, cool, where's your factory? And I'll be like, we're not a factory, we're a restaurant. It says burgers and kebabs right under it. And they'll be like, so you manufacture burgers and kebabs? Like, no, we're a fast casual restaurant. So if we were like Kebab Factory, people would have understood right away, or Taco Factory, people would have gotten it. So Pincho Factory, people weren't really grasping it. And I was Michael Astoria from N Pizza, a good friend of mine. He looked at me and said, dude, just drop the factory already, right? And funny enough, Jim Mises from Blaze, who happens to be one of our mentors and sits on my board, also was always saying, hey, you gotta drop factory. So I said, okay, you know what? I think it's time to maybe drop factory. So, I hired an agency. They gave me a couple of options of what, Pincho, Latin street food, Miami street food. I wasn't 100% convinced. So instead of doing a traditional, going asking a ton of people here in Miami what they thought, or a focus group, I said, you know what? Let me just go ask people outside of Miami. So I went to kayak.com, I bought a ticket to Chicago O'Hare. I stood in the middle of the airport with 6 pieces of paper, and I started randomly going to strangers and said, hey, my name is Otto. I'm a student at a school. Well, the first person that didn't say student, they totally looked at me super weird. And I'll say, hey, I'm a student. I would love for you to guess what this is. And I'll just show them Pincho in the tagline, and ultimately ended up Pincho Latin American Kitchen ended up being the most favorite, word.
So
we came back and we said, okay, we gotta rebrand, right?
Interesting. So the process for your business to essentially kind of elevate what was happening in Pincho, what are some of the things that you guys did internally, whether it was culture, kind of the whole look, the feel, that visual element?
Right.
Because your stores are very kind of urban, hip, very cool vibe.
So one of our things initially was we didn't want to be this Latin place for Latin people only, right? We wanted to be this super cool Latin American joint, and you don't have to be loud to be Latin. Like you can be amazing, super cool, super hip, right? Just like any other Latin restaurants you go to Colombia and Brazil, it's not always the red, white, and green and all these loud colors. So like interiors are very, very important for us, and we would like to celebrate, the locations that, the neighborhoods that we're in. But for us, part of this rebrand was really important, was to really align the entire organization as to what we stand for, right? From our core values, from who we stand, what's our mission, what's our goal, what we're trying to do, right? It's, as you know, the labor market, it's crazy right now to get people to come and work with you. It has getting harder. It's been harder and harder. So having that buy-in from the crew is like super important. So we landed in three super important things, which was flavor, culture, and passion.
Okay.
Those are sort of the pillars of the brand right now. So not only for the outside, for the consumer, it's also our tagline. They're also our core values internally.
Yeah.
Right.
I think a lot of people don't really, when they're starting a business or getting ready to try to elevate their business to a brand, is they lose that connection to the mission or the core values or the mission statement of the business itself. And that's where you kind of go astray. I mean, because it definitely doesn't, because your brand can't align with it.
Of course. And sometimes you try to be something that you're not, because you're trying to rebrand, because you're trying to, appeal to investors or appeal to people that have no sense of what matters to the people that are currently going to your establishment,
your customers,
The customers. So for us, it took us a year and 4 months or a year and 3 months.
Wow.
With the whole rebrand process. The agency that we've hired, they were like, Otto, enough, right? Because I was super picky about every single detail, but ultimately ended up being fantastic. It ended up being a very simple new look, but it was a clear evolution of the old one. And not necessarily like, hey, what the hell happened, right? People walk in the stores like, you guys lost your identity? No, people looked at it, and I promise you,
it was like an upgrade.
Every other day, we get people saying, I called it Pincho anyway. I've always called you guys Pincho. Oh my God, I love, can I get a t-shirt? Can I get a hat? So that's when you start feeling that, we did the right thing.
Which is, to me, that is one of the key measurements of a business becoming a brand, is the ability to have a transportable element to their brand. Being able to start to evolve it and have the guest or customers kind of just plug right in and follow you all the way through. All right, so you guys had a very unique branding refit campaign going, which was, kind of talk to us about that, the kind of in the night.
That was a really cool campaign. So our team came to me and they said, hey, listen, we have a couple of ideas. Here's what we would like to do to sort of send the message that we're rebranding. And they were very cumbersome, and they were, when you have to explain the idea too much, I was already like sort of turned off by it, and I told them, guys, I need something super simple. I want something that's super, super, super cheap, right, in terms of execution, but brilliant, right? That it's going to be a viral moment. And we've decided to go in the middle of the night, 2 a.m., go to one of our locations and steal the word factory. And then we staged it, and we actually had a video of the thief, with a bandana. He took down the word factory, and then we posted on social media the next day. It was like, we're like, WTF, what's going on? Who would do this? And it sort of caught on, like it went sort of a little viral, nothing crazy. We just posted a picture. The next day we posted the video, and that's when people were like, holy crap, this is actually happening. And 3 days later, we took down the sign from another location, and we did another video of the perpetrator taking it down, and that's when TV picked it up, radio picked it up, and it just went viral. But the strategy was, as we're doing this, let's sprinkle the truth. Because we don't want the neighborhoods to look bad because there are thieves in the neighborhoods. So, we started sprinkling the truth, and then it spread like wildfire. When you tell a friend, please don't say this to anybody but this.
Yeah.
And it just ends up, the secret always ends up getting out. So that's exactly what happened. By the 5th day or 6th day, everybody already knew. It was like, oh, you guys are rebranding, you guys are changing your name. And then it went sort of viral. We got almost 1 million impressions.
Oh, wow.
With $1,000. I think it was $1,500 was the total ad campaign.
That's great.
Right.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about growth and
Sure.
kind of the vertical nature of any great brand is to scale.
Right.
And to look at some point, exits down the road. You guys are just now open in Doral. Mm-hmm. So Doral being a great neighborhood
Right.
here in South Florida. What are the plans for kind of taking Pincho to the next level, which is more cities?
Right. So we're being very, very careful. Right. So we've been very fortunate to have built an amazing brand. And as you know, not building a business, building a brand takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
Right. So it's been 9 years in the making. So we are currently right now getting ready to open up Washington, D.C. with
Okay.
one of our lead investors, somebody that we trust, somebody that is an operator, a fantastic operator. So we're about to sign our first lease. So we're getting ready to go there. We're probably going to be building more units in South Florida. Mm-hmm. We would like to probably get to the 25 to 30 base here
Okay.
in home, leverage our G&A, as the operators will say. And then we're being very careful about the next market, right?
Yeah.
We really like Dallas. We really like Orlando. We really like Atlanta.
Yeah.
But we want to do it the right way. For now, I think we're going to be sticking to company-owned units. And we've dabbled with franchising here and there. But if you want to be great, you have to choose one.
Yeah.
And I think people that try to do both early on, which we did when we were, for circumstances, when we were at 2-3 locations, we started franchising. We just recently bought most of our franchises back. So now I think it's just add a little bit more gas to the fire and grow a couple more company-owned units and really focus on the Washington, D.C. market first. And then take it from there.
I think you hit on something, and that is the idea of franchising or starting to go that direction. Because I talk to a lot of founders that, they're on both sides of the fence. When you're building a brand, you're looking to scale with someone else's money. Franchising is a great way to do that, but at the same time, that connectivity to the brand, especially in its younger years, is hard to maintain. Was that one of the reasons you felt like you needed to keep control?
Well, 100%. I mean, we've never liked the franchising route, primarily because of losing control of the experience, right? We're super big on controlling the experience from A to Z.
Yep.
And with franchisings, you have limitations.
Yeah,
You simply, it gets a little bit, it's more politics involved.
Yeah.
But then as a bootstrap founders, right, sometimes you have to
you got to keep it alive.
You got to keep it alive, right?
Yeah.
So early on, when we were in Miami, banks weren't lending. It was very hard. Miami's not this hub of investors where you can, meet venture capitalists or meet, private equity groups are investing in the space.
Right.
So it's a very tough market for us to raise capital, right? We ended up raising capital from investors from Washington, right? Just to give you an idea. So we did franchise early on, but we were very careful. We said, okay, if we're going to franchise, let's franchise just close to home, right, where we can support.
Yeah.
Let's do 4 or 5 units, and and see where we end up where we end up from there. Thankfully, the 4 or 5 units did fantastic.
Yeah.
And it was an amazing business. So now when we're looking at the EBITDA, you're looking at this business like, wait, our cash returns are phenomenal. And now you have interest from investors. Why franchise?
Yeah.
Right. So that's sort of like how we ended up, going back to just building company-owned units.
Yeah,
right?
and there's a lot of great models for this right now
course.
that have already been proven. If you look at Sweetgreen,
Right.
even Chipotle, all the way go back to Starbucks.
Right. I mean, you have to understand, you have to know your why, right? And then what's our why? Our why, we want to be champions of hospitality. We want to, we want to have the best company culture out there. And with franchising, it's very tough. Mm-hmm. You can do it with fantastic franchise partners.
Right.
But you have to know what you want to do early on and stick to that sort of North Star and that vision and say, okay, if we're gonna be the best franchisor, we're gonna be the best franchisor. You hire an entirely different team. As you know, it's 2 different sort of type of people to run an ops or to support.
Yeah.
It's very different, 2 different animals. So, we dabbled early on with franchising, but I think now we want to stick a little bit more to, just doing the company-owned units and figure out what's next.
Yeah, and I've always said because I talk to a lot of leaders like yourself, and franchising is always one that I'm a little bit not super bullish on, in the sense that what you just mentioned is the scalability of operations, because you're essentially duplicating one unit to the next, to the next, to the next, because you have maybe different franchise partners in each
Right.
one. So they have their own director of ops over here, another director of ops over here. Maybe they go to the letter of the law, maybe they don't. But versus a corporate, it is, like, hey, here's the operations manual. It's going to whatever, 25, 50, 100
Look,
units.
I look at concepts like Blaze.
Yeah.
Jim, as I told you, sits on our board. Like, what they've done is fantastic. It's phenomenal, right?
That's pizza.
Right. I know it's pizza, right? But it's still, you got to give it to them, because not that many people can start a franchise at the speed that they did and maintain the quality that they have. And great company culture all around.
Right.
But they're one in a million, right?
Yeah.
Not that...
It's a high risk.
It's a high risk, and it just happened that their team had fantastic individuals, right, that were able to scale this thing.
Yeah.
And I think for us, startup founders, specifically the ones that are bootstrap, franchising, there's a lot of risk.
Yeah.
It's a lot of risk. You never know who you're going to franchise to. So it becomes very, very tough.
Yeah. Okay, so stay on topic. We'll kind of wrap up here, but I want to look at when you're in the brand, you have branding in your background, the agency side. What if you said, hey, this was our biggest challenge from leveraging the jump from being a small Miami business to what is now recognized as a national fast casual brand? What do you think was the biggest leap for you guys to make it to that next step?
Oh, man. Time, right? Be patient. You can't just start a brand, right?
Yeah.
You're right. You have to. I think it's so many different things that go into building a brand, right? So the way that we look at it internally, right? We look at Pincho as a person. Well, Pincho for us,
its own personality.
right? It's its own personality. In our case, it's a male-driven voice, right? It's a guy. It's a collective of me, Nidal, Michael Campos. A collective of the people that work in the brand day in, day out. I have hours meetings that are just for captions that go on Instagram, because it's our voice, right? It's who you are as a person. So all these little things matter. What we say on social media, how do we post it, the color of our pictures, the stories that we're posting, the events that we're partaking on, the give backs in the community. All of those things is what an individual would do. And it's not easy, and it has to be genuine. If you really want to build a brand and you want to fake it, it's not going to happen. It has to be a very genuine connection between the brand and its customers. So for us, it was like over time, all of these little events that we did, everything that we've done. Sometimes you have to sit there and you have to hack it, right? You have to sit there and you have to hack it. How do we build brand loyalty, and what do we do? How do we go out there to the community and become part of the fabric that has built that community? Any brand that has some random intern handling their social, it's not going to be able to build what we've built. Right. That's part one, right? Because you have to be genuine. I think part two is surrounding yourself with amazing mentors that are part of the industry. We've learned a ton from Andy Howard, right, from Wingstop, now from Hugh Magusio. We've learned a ton from Jim Mises. We've learned a ton from John Kunkel from 50 Eggs here in Miami. Michael Astoria from Man Pizza. So many people that we learn from that have helped us sort of take our little brand from being like this local, although we're still local, but we're nationally recognized, is primarily because of the relationships that we've built, right? Foodable, being part of all of these events and going out and really getting the word out there of what we're trying to do. Those are things that actually helped us also, be part of a much bigger picture.
Right, yeah. Right. I talked to Ethan Brown, who is the CEO with Beyond Meat.
Right.
And we had a great podcast with him last year before they went IPO. Right. And he was really going into that about, hey, listen, it's one puzzle in a puzzle of 1,000 pieces that have to be put together, and you can't leave one piece out, or you have an incomplete puzzle and you don't have it.
Even your team members, a lot of brands take that for granted. You have close to 200 plus employees, team members. They're all brand builders, right? The way that we treat them, ultimately, at the end of the day, will get out there to the world, and then it's in this day and age where one voice, a couple of years ago, one voice was just one voice. Now, one voice is how many followers you have. Right. So if you have team members have 100, 200, 300 followers, and some people 5,000, 10,000 followers, every single little thing that we do matters when building the brand. Yeah, it's pretty powerful stuff. And it's fascinating, really, if you think about it.
I think when we look back on what, especially when business professors look back on this era of business, social media, mobile, high-speed internet, which gives you the ability to, throw videos and podcasts and things like that up with content marketing.
Right.
That wasn't there 5 years ago.
Of course not.
So.
Like the other day, I'll give you an example. The other day, we're like, okay, I'm wondering if people would like this, right? Something that we're coming up. You just put a story on Instagram and be like, hey guys, we're working on this. What do you guys think? And you get 300 responses in less than 5 seconds.
Right.
That
was a focus group 5 years ago.
Right, that was a focus group. It cost thousands of dollars. We literally do that. The other day, we did a post. We said, hey, we're looking for some VIP taste testers. We're going to be doing these dinners, like our innovation kitchen. We just want to see, what you guys think. Just put your email here. If you're, over 400 or 500 people signed up in a matter of like 30 minutes.
Wow.
So now we have 400 or 500 people that we tap into. Every time we're going to launch a new menu, we do a dinner. Literally, we'll do a dinner. I'll go, Adrian will go, we'll hang out, we'll have a beer with everybody. We'll explain a lot of things that we're doing and get a ton of valuable feedback.
Yeah.
Just because of Instagram, just because of Facebook, right?
Yeah, which is something I call brand velocity.
There you go.
Is when you get into a phase that you can drop a nugget and that ripple just starts happening kind of on its own.
Right.
And the brand just takes off. And it's usually them doing the work for you.
Right. And I say this internally to our team all the time. We don't own our brand anymore.
Yeah.
It's legit owned by the people. Like if we remove something from the menu, you have no idea the kind of emails that we get, right? There's this sense of ownership.
Exactly.
And because we wanted to be that way. Pincho wasn't built for me and Nidal and Nizar. We built something because we wanted to share our food, our experience, our hospitality with everybody. Yeah. And we're very fortunate that it caught on because it's a tough business. Yeah. It's not easy, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
Otto, it's been great having you, man, here
awesome,
in studio. Thanks for jumping in.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
Take care.
All right. So for all of you listening or maybe watching here on Breakthrough, make sure and stay tuned for more great shows like this. We do a breakdown try to do it every week where we give you 3 tips and strategies of how to build your business, whether you're in the restaurant business or you're just launching maybe a new brand. And then we also cover a little about what the challenges and the problems in the industry are. So stay tuned right here on Breakthrough. Make sure if you have a show idea to send it to producer@foodabletv.com. We'll catch you soon.